X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is the show where I, Zach Jenkins, and my co-host, Adam Reck, take a look at every X-Men story in the history of X-Men story, and I tell you what, there have been several, and we determine which one's the best, which one's the worst, and rank them on our big old list encompassing the entirety of X-Men. I couldn't do this without Adam, so Adam, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You know, we've been doing a lot of character profiles lately, but we're kind of doing an author-centric episode today, so could be interesting.
Yeah, this episode's going to be interesting. So this is coming to us straight from Patreon supporter Luke Hare. Luke's been a previous guest on the show. I've met him several times in real life. He's a cool dude. We got what was it? Pizza and beer and played the X-Men arcade game a couple of weeks ago. It was fun.
That sounds ideal. That's great.
Yeah. It was me, him, and previous guest of the show, Charlie Davis, was also there, and we all hung out. We saw a podcast together. I've never met most of these people in my real life. This is just how the internet has changed the world.
Isn't it delightful when you meet internet people in person? It's great. You know?
It's quite a world we live in. But yeah, so Luke has been a longtime supporter here, and he has suggested that we do the Jeff Parker run on Exiles, which made us just say, let's just do a bunch of Jeff Parker stories and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, when Luke makes a request, I'd be worried if it wasn't something Exiles related. The guy has, you know, that's what he likes. That's his thing.
Yeah, I mean, he only runs 1.5 Exiles-centric podcasts.
Well, it's a good theme. You could plug multiple characters into it, and time hop, universe hop. It's great.
Yeah. So Jeff Parker, how much do you know about Jeffrey Parker?
Not a lot. I mean, like, after reading the stories we're going to do today, I feel like I have a pretty good sense of his general writing sensibilities. I know he's the guy behind Agents of Atlas, right?
Yeah.
And beyond that,
and a bunch of kind of throwback stories, I think. So he did 30 issues of Batman 66. Mm-hmm. He's done Agents of Atlas, which is like a kind of a golden age throwback team. He did X-Men First Class. He did all of those. So he's done a lot of stuff kind of playing in that sphere of, well, what was the old stuff like?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, there's a little element of genre hopping in all of these things that is really kind of fun. Like, there's a little bit of high concept Cy Spurrier-ness to some of this, but it's done in there's a silliness about all of these stories that seems to embrace an older age of comics.
I think that's fair. So
yeah.
the first stories on our list, this is the Jeff Parker run on Exiles, which was only 6 issues. The Marvel Wikia calls this Exiles Volume 2, but that's confusing because Malibu, which Marvel bought, had a series called Exiles, and then a series called All New Exiles that brought in characters from the Marvel Universe like Juggernaut and Sienna Blaze and what's his name from the Mutant Liberation Front? Who am I thinking of? He has the bad hair. No, he's the one who lost his arm. Wild Style. Is it Wild Style? It doesn't matter.
As opposed to Wild Child? It doesn't
matter. Maybe it was Reaper on that team.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey,
maybe it actually was
the
Reaper.
MLF character. Okay.
I don't remember. Who cares? So Exiles Volume 2, essentially it is a continuation of sorts of the Exiles story, which had been running for a while at this point. It kind of restarts with a brand new team that that Time Broker Morph brings all together. And it includes a version of Beast who is just more bestial and also in a romantic relationship with Wonder Man instead of just in a platonic friendship that no one's quite sure why Beast would be friends with such a loser.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
look, my dude, Beast.
Do you hate on Wonder Man?
Wonder Man sucks. Like,
but Wonder Man and Beast are kind of delightful together.
No, Beast is delightful. Wonder Man is there.
I just remember fondly recalling Wonder Man's solo series, which lasted for a short period of time, and there was a charm to it. I'm not going to stand up for the character and say he's like a favorite or anything.
I hate him so much.
I remember that being kind of fun.
It's like him and Adam Warlock. I do not like either of them at all.
Oh, man.
Well, here's the thing about Adam Warlock, and we're going to get to Exiles, I promise you. But Adam Warlock is Space Jesus for Marvel, except for they already have a very good Space Jesus who rides a surfboard. You don't need another one. You already reached the pinnacle, Mr. Jack Kirby.
Well, you got a silver one, now you need an orange one. And, Adam wears a cape.
Because the silver one was so good that when Stan Lee saw the pages for the Coming of Galactus and said, "Who's this guy, Jack?" I didn't mention that in my script that was literally just have them fight God.
That's perfect.
He said, "Oh, wait, this is my new favorite character." And Stan Lee has still, to this day, said, "Oh, yeah, Silver Surfer's my favorite character."
It's easy to see why. He's a great character.
I drunkenly bought a Silver Surfer statue in Mexico once. It was a very good purchase.
That's a good use of your money. I like that.
It's like 20 pesos. I don't know how much it was. I had drank upwards of... Here's how margaritas went for me that day. And I know we are wildly off course here. But we went to an all-inclusive place, and it was probably about 11 o'clock in the morning at that point. And the bartender guy walks up to me at the beach, and I heard him say, "How many margaritas have you had?" And I put up my fingers and said 2. He was asking how many margaritas I wanted. My wife was pregnant at the time. So, and I wasn't going to waste a margarita. Long story short, the statue's in the other room. It's great.
Can you drink a margarita out of the statue? Does it have a removable silver?
No, it's
silver
just
head or something. Doubles as a flask,
like a ceramic-y thing. It's really cool. I like it.
That's really funny.
Anyway, Exiles.
Really all right, who else is on this team?
Who else we have? We got Beast. We already said Beast.
Mm-hmm.
We got Blink, who is Age of Apocalypse / Exiles Blink. Only she doesn't remember any of that being on the Exiles and leading the team for a while.
That's a little unclear.
At least she's faking. That's the twist. She's faking.
Yes.
We got the Panther, who is T'Chaka, named after his grandfather. He is Storm and Black Panther's son.
Yep. He's kind of a horny Spider-Man too. Like there's a little right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know. It seems like every scene he's a little randy,
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
Then we've also got versions of Scarlet Witch and Polaris here too.
Yeah, and they're just Scarlet Witch
and Forge.
And then Forge. Yeah, well, Forge.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yes.
This team goes and does Exiles stuff for a couple of issues, including going to a world where Magneto's kind of taken over an island, but everyone's kind of cool with it. Like, all the mutants are okay and hanging out together, and they have to take down his regime.
Yeah. And they are unsuccessful. They're unsuccessful. The first, what's interesting about this is that and I don't know if this is true or if it's just like the shade that's being thrown in the opening pages, but it sounds like maybe Jeff Parker wanted this series to go on for a much longer period of time. And then he was curbed to just doing like basically 2.5 arcs. So he gets to do the Magneto Utopia story. Then we get a much more interesting one, I think, which is an old robot world. And then he gets to go back to the Magneto one. And then we get a big reveal issue that connects the two series, the two volumes of Exiles. So,
yeah, issue 6. Let's talk about that for a second. Because Morph just gives them an exposition dump for an entire issue that ties up a lot of loose ends from Exiles and New Exiles, or so I assume. I've not read those series. And I'm sure it's very satisfying and important for fans of those series, but it's so wholly disconnected to friggin' everything else in the first 5 issues. Like, I was sitting there in this double-sized 6th issue and saying, what? We're still going? Morph, you've been explaining the Crystal Palace for 4 pages now. I don't need all of this.
Yeah, well, the resolution to original Exiles was that the timekeepers turned out to be bugs,
yes,
right?
Yes,
is that
but they're
what it
okay
is?
bugs. They're very polite.
Yeah, they're trying to fix some stuff. And now the plot behind this Exiles is that the original team of Exiles is creating new teams, multiple of Exiles, and I guess continuing the work. Did I get that right?
Yeah, they're just being Exiles still.
I mean, that. Yeah. But like I said, they only get to go on these 2 adventures. So the first adventure, I think, is, I don't know, I guess it's supposed to be kind of palace intrigue-y, because they have to infiltrate. The Magneto is kind of a royal family. It's a House of M type situation, / maybe an Eve of Destruction type situation. Didn't really find it all that interesting, but I did really enjoy the second adventure that they go on, which is where kind of Cerebro has turned Hal and is conspiring to eliminate all of humanity from the planet. I found that to be much more interesting.
Yeah, it probably is. I wasn't like intrigued by either story. And we should mention Jeff Parker does the write on here. You got Salvador Espin doing the pencils on about half the issues and Casey Jones doing the pencils on the other half. Salvador Espin is not an artist I particularly enjoy. Like, I've read a lot of stuff that he does.
Yeah, there's kind of like a Jeff Campbell type thing going on here with the way he draws women, and he really likes abs. I feel like he really likes sculpted abs. Like, that's a thing for him.
Yeah, but he doesn't do them as well as like a Chris Anka does. I don't know. I think I agree. The Machine Nation story that kind of takes up the middle chunk of this run is probably better. There is a giant mechanical sandworm in it, which is delightful.
Yeah, there's some really cool elements in there. The Machine Man is in there. Vision and Ultron have formed this alliance to actually save humanity through a pretty clever twist. And I don't know, I thought that had some novelty to it. I thought that was interesting. This definitely suffers from having been canceled after 5 issues and trying to wrap up 2 series worth of continuity in 40 pages or so. So as a whole, it's okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't something I'm going to revisit.
Yeah. Like, for me, I've tried to read a lot of Exiles. I've really given it a fair shake, but I've never been like hooked by it. And I think part of the problem is the fact that to make the Exiles team interesting, you got to make them different enough. Like, okay, Age of Apocalypse Blink, I'm here for that. That's interesting enough. But, like, besides the Panther, kind of everyone is, like, 90% their regular 616 self. And I'm just not that, like, that's not that intriguing to me. Like, what's his name? Who's really cool, just launched the new Exiles, and I'm blanking. Saladin Ahmad.
Saladin
Ahmad. Even though that's not a series I'm particularly loving, to his credit, went in a pretty different direction with every character and at least gave you a hook to, take a look at. And like, I'm more interested in seeing, okay, what's these wild new takes on these characters versus here's characters who are mostly how you remember them.
Yeah. I mean, here's Forge. He misses Storm. That's not as novel as saying that we're going to go back and find an ex-baby's, but it's not really ex-baby's Wolverine, and dump him in with like Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok, the movie. I think, like he's definitely making some more inspired choices, which should be the fun of the series. And what's interesting is in the 6th issue, we actually see some alternate teams.
Almost every one of those teams I'd rather read about. Like, I was going through, I was like, that seems fun.
Yeah, they were more interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe, and we don't know, maybe if the series had gone on, we would have seen those other teams. But given the short run, you just got to see what you saw in the 2 arcs. So it's hampered by that.
Where are you thinking as far as ranking goes?
All right. Well, we have another. Where's the other Exiles on our list? 72.
Yep, that is the first arc of the first Marvel proper Exiles.
Yeah. And I mean, this is similar in quality. I obviously it's not as novel this time. It's the second time out, and we're kind of revisiting that idea. So
I think that that first arc of Exiles proper is better than this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like right below or near below that is the first Juggernaut arc.
Yeah.
And I've been reading a lot of Juggernaut the last week. I find that arc delightful now. It's great.
Yeah.
Like Juggernaut as a character has grown on me a ton in like 3 days.
He can be really fun. He really can.
So I think that's better. What I think I could be persuaded to, and speak up if you disagree, I think it might be better than Spider-Man and the X-Men number 1 and 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think for that would put it right below the Ecstatics Die Another Day Back from the Dead story, which I think has more merit than this, at least from a historical perspective. But I think there's some good quality stuff here. And Spidey and the X-Men 1 and 2 is, one of those animated series larks that is also not really essential to be revisited.
I mean, like, Spider-Man and the X-Men 1 and 2 can be revisited specifically for the stuff about turning people into dinosaurs.
Yeah, if I could play devil's advocate, though, like, I think I might go back to Brood Trouble in the Big Easy before I go back to this Exiles run, though, which is below Spidey and X-Men 1 and 2. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, that Brood story is probably better.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that has a lot of fun stuff in it. But I do think
I agree with that.
Has more quality than
I totally do agree.
Okay, great. Let's do it that.
But yeah, I think it's better than the Phalanx Covenant, Cable, and Wolverine. So
yeah, blow stuff
that
up.
puts Jeff Parker's Exiles as the new number 79 on our list. So that's 1 down.
Fantastic. What other Jeff Parker-y stuff are we doing today?
We talking about? Well, like we mentioned, Jeff Parker is very well known for Agents of Atlas, and we found a way to shoehorn that into this episode, dang it. This is a 2-issue limited series that was done right around the same time as his Exiles run. This is X-Men versus Agents of Atlas.
That's crazy to me. These came out at the same time?
Yeah, Jeff Parker was like real hot in 2008 to 2010.
Can I just tell you why I'm surprised by that? Like, there seems to be a maturity in the writing that is present in what we're about to talk about that I didn't necessarily see in Exiles. Like, I don't know whether it's just the humor or what, but there was like a shift in tone that was I don't know. It just felt like an evolution to me. So it's wild to me to hear that they came out in similar time spans.
It's because Jeff Parker was writing both, at least a chunk of the original X-Men, which he has a lot of experience with, and the Agents of Atlas, who are his babies. So that was, I agree with you. This is better because it has the right mix of characters and everything for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So have you read much Agents of Atlas? Because I have not.
I have not. I know of the team. I know of the roster, the general idea, but I've only read a couple of issues here and there, so I'm definitely not an expert. But I will say, to its defense, this is more of an Agents of Atlas story than it is an X-Men story, in my opinion, and it does a pretty good job of at least giving you some background so that you're not confused and going, "What the heck is going on?" Because this is a fight book and it has a pretty simple setup, but there's an added bonus in that there's 2 stories going on at the same time and you're not really sure why until the second issue. And the way it ties together is pretty clever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun thing. It brings some stuff, some '05 feeling stuff mixed in with modern, actually right at the start of Utopia era things. Because the whole premise of this story is the Agents of Atlas sneak in and try and use Cerebro while the X-Men are moving.
Which is a pretty, that's a fun setup on its own. I think that Carlo, is it Pagulian? Am I saying that right?
Carlo, I don't know.
I apologize if I'm
we
saying
know
your name
that
wrong,
I can't
Carlo.
pronounce things.
But his art is absolutely beautiful. I think that helps the storytelling quite a bit, and it's a really smart way to just get these two teams to kind of team up and go after each other. So I like this quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a fun story. They get Cerebro, the X-Men and them fight, and then they are trying to find their teammate. They're looking for Venus, who is been captured by
Aphrodite.
What is her Aphrodite? Being mad that she is kind of impersonated her ?
Yeah, she's using her image, and she doesn't like that because she's a god and she's worshipped for her image.
Right. So they do that. They fight. Namor ends up kind of playing a bit of peacemaker because Namora is with the Agents of Atlas, and Namor's like, "Hey, I know you. We have mostly the same name."
Yeah. I mentioned this thing that's going on in the background. The amazing Chris Samnee is doing this sort of Silver Age X-Men story, as you maybe assume as a backup story in the first issue, but then you realize that it's sort of a shared dream state that's happening in mid-issue in the second issue while they're fighting, and I thought that was pretty clever. At first I was like, this is weird, but it works pretty well in the story and in context.
Yeah, it's a good little tricky pulls on you. I like it. I like the fact that Wolverine fights M11, who is a robot and pretty much only speaks in beeps and boops.
And they hate each other, right? Because
the
preview page tells you they have history of arm melting or cutting off or something like that, right?
Yeah, I assume that happened in some Agents of Atlas stories that I have not read.
Yeah, I will say the weakest part of this is when the story has been resolved. So we go from Carlo's art into Samnee's art, and then once we get everything wrapped up, the conclusion of the two issues is really just kind of an Agents of Atlas story with the Venus and Aphrodite. That's probably the weakest part of these two issues, but it's a fun crossover. Yeah. There's some good Dr. Nemesis banter at the beginning of the first issue, and it's a good transition issue for the X-Men as you see them moving into Utopia.
So what I kind of feel like this was, and I don't have the historical context to back this up, but I think this was a bridge between some Agents of Atlas series. And I think they were kind of trying to use the X-Men to get more people interested, because it turns out people do like the X-Men.
It has that feel to it, and I can't blame them for doing it, because the way that Parker executes this is pretty fun. There's a really big cast of characters, these gigantic fight scenes between all these characters. I had kind of forgotten that Cloak and Dagger were on the X-Men for a while, so that was kind of fun.
They were on the team for I think some promo issues, and so they were on the Dark X-Men that Norman Osborn had Emma Frost make. And then they were like, oh, wait, are we the bad guys? And then they joined Emma in turning sides. And then they hung out in the Utopia era. They were big promoted to be like Cloak and Dagger on the X-Men. And then no one used them. So they kind of just left.
That's a shame. It's kind of fun seeing them with X's on their costumes. It's a bit jarring, even though, if I may, are Cloak and Dagger mutants?
So
technically
this is one of my favorite things of comics. They were mutants in the late 80s, early 90s for marketing reasons, so they could call their book The Mutant Adventures of Cloak and Dagger. and it was never relevant and never
That's
brought up
weird.
again until they were on the X-Men for like a hot second. And then it turns out, oh, wait, no, we aren't mutants. We just got our powers from drugs,
Nope.
like we said originally.
Yeah. I mean, they did have that famous crossover with New Mutants, but it's not really a crossover. It's more of a cameo. But
Well, it was.
they aren't mutants. Anyway, I'm going off on another aside.
I'll be honest, guys. This episode is going to be a lot of asides because 2 issues in, and we're realizing that we do not have the larger context to talk about either of these stories so far. And also, we already wasted 20 minutes trying to do something because we had some audio issues for a while. So we've talked about half of this stuff already.
Let me tell you though, this is fun. Like if you just want a bash 'em, smash 'em. Hey, there's also a giant dragon in this thing, and there's some really beautiful artwork. If you just want to have like a quick fun read, this is a good little crossover here. I thought it was cool.
It's worth reading. Like it's 2 issues. Go pick this up. You'll have a blast, and maybe you'll like Agents of Atlas and want to keep reading that.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there is a Gorilla Man on their team, and he's pretty a good fun. Dude. So you know, take that for what it's worth.
He's an immortal gorilla. Did you know that if you kill him, then you shall become the Gorilla Man?
I did not know that. That's great.
According to Jeff Parker, if he flew into the sun would not become a gorilla, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Where's my gorilla son?
All hail the gorilla son.
Maybe more of a gorilla. Maybe a gorilla moon. That would probably be
okay. But how's the moon going to kill him? The moon, you can I guess you wouldn't have oxygen, but he's also an intelligent gorilla man. So I don't know.
All right. Let's play this out because everybody's seen Avengers now, and everybody has seen Thanos pull a moon out of the sky and drop it on Tony Stark, right? So if Thanos drops a moon on Gorilla Man, does the moon become Gorilla Man, or does Thanos become Gorilla Man?
So here's what I'm going to say. Kent became Gorilla Man because he had dreams of an immortal gorilla, and he hunted it into the jungle, and he shot it. But Ken became the Gorilla Man, not his gun. So I'm going to have to say that Thanos would be the Gorilla Man with the Infinity Gauntlet.
That sounds rad.
Oh, dang. That's a good what if. What if the Gorilla Man... What if Thanos hunted the immortal gorilla? Jeff Parker would write the hell out of that.
For Gorilla-Thanos-Man. I'm in. That's great.
Oh my gosh, how many purple gorillas do we know? Well, hold on. I'm pretty sure I do. R.I.P.
I don't know. Hanna-Barbera?
Is gorilla purple
gorilla? I feel like he is. Hold on, I'm looking this up. That's something I have not.
Apparently, purple gorilla is definitely a strain of that sticky icky.
Oh, yeah.
If you type purple gorilla into Google, you get pot WikiLeaf, which is a pretty good wiki name. Yeah, it's all pot.
Magilla Gorilla does wear a purple bow tie and a purple hat. So
no, I don't know any purple gorillas. It's definitely pot, though. We have accidentally become a 420 friendly podcast. So good for you. This has been a very loose episode, to say the least.
That's okay. We're always looking for new listeners, so this is great.
Adam, where do you want to rank this?
All right.
This story that we have just talked around mostly, not really about.
I think this is fun, but ultimately unimportant. So kind of looking around the low 60s, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think it's better than number 69, which is the bar issue of Excalibur. Yes. I think it's better. I would agree. That.
Is it better than Negative Zone War, which we just covered?
Yeah, it's probably better than that. I don't think it's better. I don't think it's better than that Warlock turning into Godzilla and also King Kong in Web of Spider-Man Annual number 2.
No, I wasn't going to go that high. I also don't. I think,
which is at 62 right now. So
yeah. Okay. Here's a good ceiling. Is it better than that Gold Balls issue?
The one that we only refer to as that Gold Balls issue.
Yeah.
Man, I really hope. No, I do hope there's another definitive Gold Balls story.
Me too.
Oh,
Me too.
I think the Gold Balls thing is better. This is probably better than.
I don't know if this
is probably better than What If the X-Men Stayed in Asgard.
You think it's better than that? I think the art is better than that for sure. You know, there's some really beautiful art in this. So, is this our new 66?
This can be our new 66. It is X-Men versus the Agents of Atlas.
Cool. Yeah, this is fun, guys. Check this out. It's got some good stuff in it.
It is. We aren't really doing any of these stories justice, and it's only going to get more difficult from here.
I don't know. I think I'm promoting this one pretty good.
I don't think it's promotion. I think it's we serve a dual role on this podcast. One side of our role is talking about why something is better or worse than a different story, or what's good or bad about it in and of itself. But another role, and a role I think we often probably do a little bit less than we should, especially on these more obscure C-D list stories, is kind of give like an overview of them. And this episode has been loosey-goosey.
Well, I don't know. We're trying, guys. We're trying. Let's try and explain this next one, because this one's like, what?
This story's name is Canon. It's about things being canon. This is X-Men First Class, Volume 2, Number 11, written by Jeff Parker, with pencils by Nix Dragotta. This is... Okay, so First Class, to be clear, takes place in the Silver Age, in between all these other stories, specifically before the X-Men get their new costumes. So this is Yellow and Black Attack X-Men.
Yeah, X's on their bellies. It's odd.
Yeah. And yeah, so...
But that's not what this story is about.
I mean,
this is barely an X-Men story.
No, this is a story about the Continuiteens.
Yes.
Adam, what could you tell our dear listeners about the Continuiteens?
Okay. So can I just ask a question before I try and explain this? Are the Continuiteens a thing anywhere else other than this issue?
No, this is their only appearance in Marvel Comics.
Okay. I gotta say, that as a gambit is pretty insane. That this is the only time that these characters appear and then disappear.
This is their first appearance. The Marvel Wikia, being the great source of all things Marvel, he's telling me that these have appeared. They showed back up in Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts. What?
Oh, okay. All right. So...
What?
Huh. Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. Zach's going to be reading some Dark Avengers later, but that's not important now.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you asked me to explain what they are, and I'm a little bit confused as to what time this is supposed to take place in, because like the beginning you might as well assume is the present, but it
takes place in the X-Men's past. Time,
yeah,
I try not to have conversations about time.
Yeah, well, we got into this with the Draco, but the Continuiteens are these group of, I guess they're all comic book store employees. Is that accurate to start off with? Are they all comic store employees?
They were. So okay. we don't get a lot of backstory.
No.
What we do know is that at some time in the past, Man-Thing, Man-Thing, he's a swamp monster that lives in Florida.
Yep.
In what is it, Sunshine or Orange Grove, Florida, something, I don't care. And he is the protector of the Nexus of all realities.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently these teens at this Florida comic shop got some comics from our world that fell through the Nexus of all realities and into their comic shop, into their long boxes, so then they could read about comics from the future and know everything about it. And they decided that power was too great and they had to disperse and not be like that into it.
Yeah.
But they had to be called into action one last time.
Yes, because the Nexus of Realities is affecting the real world, right? Because Mysterio has become drenched with the water of the Nexus of Realities. Is that?
Yeah, Mysterio got some of the water from the Nexus of Realities in that Florida swamp, and then mixed it in with his illusion gas, and then started making illusions everywhere about things that he could not have known about. And then the universe starts breaking down.
And the continuity teams have to save the day.
Right, because why would Dupe be in this issue of Silver Age X-Men? It makes no sense. Mysterio doesn't know about Dupe. He can't pull Dupe out of his illusion bag.
I think this is a really fun thing because I mentioned Cy Spurrier before. This has that kind of like high concept, really weird meta quality to it that is really fun to dig into. It's absolutely bizarre. It comes out of nowhere. All of that backstory that we just got into has to be surmised within a very short period of time over the course of this story as Doctor Doom, Red Skull, a whole bunch of random villains are attacking the city, and the Silver Age X-Men are there to jump in and help. It's weird. It's real weird.
It is weird. It does a couple of things that I like. So have you read First Class? I assume not, since you've never read this story.
Nope.
So I went on I call it a Silver Age kick, but really it was Zach wants to read literally everything to do with the Silver Age X-Men and try and make it make sense a while back, and that included reading First Class. And this ties into a couple of different stories from First Class, like all the stuff with the Lizard and Swamp Thing. Professor Xavier was Man Thing for a little bit. That's a real thing that happened earlier in this series. It ties it all together. It's a lot of fun. Not particularly weighty and not particularly like important, but it's like you won't be upset about this unit of comic book.
No, it's kind of like Forget Me Not, because these characters come, they help save the day. There's some really fun overlapping timeline stuff. One of the Continuiteens gets to explain Cyclops' force beams, which I find is like just a really remarkable, fun panel. I think Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur make a cameo, which I'm always a fan of. There's just some really nice little touches to this.
You mean those boys from the Valley of Flame?
Yes. What really sells this though is the artwork is great. It's Nick Dragata, I believe, is the artist's name. Yeah,
he's really good.
Really good.
Have we talked about him on this podcast before? I feel like he did the art for that Mojo World story, The Astonishing Tales.
Oh, really? Is that right?
I think so. So.
This is a very, because he's doing sort of a classic Silver Age style, which, it works really well for this story.
Yeah, Nick Dragota is good. I may be getting him mixed up. I am. Nick Dragota is another John Hickman collaborator. Who did that? Astonishing Tales. Nick Patera. Who is...
Okay.
Yeah. Was it Nick Dragota and Nick Patera? Wait. Yeah,
you could be forgiven for confusing the two.
Who's Nick Patera work? What does he do? Okay, he's done Red Wing with Hickman. He does Manhattan Projects, and Dragota does East of West. That's right. I'm sorry, I got two high concept Jonathan Hickman artists whose name is Nick mixed up.
Nick and Nick.
How many times has he sent an email to the wrong one of them? That's gotta happen, right?
I'm sure. But this definitely has, that Silver Age quality to the artwork. And I don't know, I just like it. It's very high concept. It's funny. It allows, the concept of the issue allows there to be all of these different villains and all these little, quick visual cues. And it's cool. It doesn't cut into the continuity of what's going on in the series. And it allows them to just have this standalone, really fun story.
It's a fun little one shot. It's not like crazy. It's a very good high concept that I guess I'm not shocked that it comes up later in Dark Avengers, which Jeff Parker also wrote. But it's real interesting. And I really like It's a delightful little comic. It's not essential. It's not perfect, but like go read this. It's 21 pages or whatever. You won't regret it if you got that app. Or heck, I'd say pay the $2. Pay the $2 on Comixology if you're not a Marvel Unlimited subscriber. This is worth $2.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really fun, weird standalone thing. And I think we've been advocates for creators using the world to explore really weird, high concept things. I think we've spoken very highly of Worst X-Man Ever. We've spoken very highly of, certain aspects of like X-Statics or, the weird stuff that Cy Spurrier does. So I don't know if this is as good as those things. A lot of those things are maybe more successful than this standalone issue, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's weird and it's a lot of fun. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. Where would you rank it? I'm going to throw out a story and I want you to say higher or lower. Number 61, Astonishing Tales Mojo World, also written by Nick, or drawn by Nick, but a different Nick.
I would put this lower than that. I thought that was really fun and silly, and I like how high concept this is. I may even like the art style better, but I still think that was
what
better.
I think this might be better than is this better than Men? Is this better than the Rob Liefeld, Chris Claremont, equally zany one-shot where a bunch of aliens show up and the X-Men fight them?
I think this might be better than Uncanny 245, aka Men, which is, Claremont kind of on a lark going off on this aside. But I think this is a little more high concept, and it works pretty well. I like the art here better. No offense to the Rob, but I think Tragota's got a really nice style.
Yeah, I like this too. So that's at 64 right now. So we're saying above that, but below number 61, Astonishing Tales Mojo World. Between those two, we have that Web of Spider-Man annual with Warlock and the Savage Land Shi'ar Jim Lee stuff from the end of Claremont's Uncanny.
Yeah, I don't think I can in good conscience put this above an Art Adams annual and or like some really crazy Jim Lee art.
That's fair.
I don't know if I can do that.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's a good showing for the Continuiteens to be our new number 64.
Absolutely.
Here on Battle of the Atom. And that does it. We had quite a path to get there. But we have finally conquered Jeff Parker.
We did say that this was going to be a wacky episode because these are some very strange stories, and they're most of the stuff's worth hunting down.
It's it's pretty good. Now, speaking of all this stuff to hunt down, we are only able to hunt this down because of the generous support of the folks on Patreon.com. You go over to Patreon.com/XavierFiles, just like supporter Luke Hare did, and you can donate a couple of bucks and get an entire episode crafted around one of your suggestions, just like Luke did. So it's pretty cool. Also, plug for Luke. Go check out his other podcast. He does Multiversal Q, which is a podcast he does with his friend Devin, and they are talking about alternate realities all the time, which is pretty cool in comic books. And then they also do one called Exiles, or Exiled, which is a real play RPG set in the Marvel multiverse, where they are a team of exiles and they have to go do exiles things. And it's got at this point, the team is teenage Jean Grey from the past, but also now she has a sword and a lot of complicated feelings for a gender swapped version of Cyclops named Sam. And I care about their relationship a lot. You've got Wendigo, who is a big furry wrestling dad. You've got Dr. Nemesis, who's Dr. Nemesis. And you've got everyone's good favorite techno-organic space boy, Warlock.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun show. They're like in the middle of their second year. Go check it out. It's a lot of good stuff. I did a free comic book day special with them last year. It was a blast. I played Maggot, who's shocked by that.
Oh, hey, we didn't mention that Maggot appears in that Exiles arc as a cop.
Oh yeah, Maggot's bad in that. He's a fascist.
I just thought we'd throw that in there. I know you're big on your maggot, but we can't get through the show without mentioning there was a maggot cameo.
At this point, a joke has gone too far, and I cannot contractually go a day without saying hashtag bring back maggot. But yes, he's bad in this. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Maggot's portrayal in here. Japheth is a good slug man. So
yes.
If you want to hear...
Sorry about that.
If you want to hear more about my inane ramblings, you can go on over to twitter.com/XavierFiles and follow me. It's at XavierFiles. You can also go to XavierFiles.com where I have weekly articles about different X-Men characters. All these podcasts are up here. There's a lot of cool stuff, news, fun things. Go check that out. And I think I've plugged all of my good stuff. Adam, where can people find you online?
All right, guys, you can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy, and new pages of Bish and Jubes are coming out on Mondays at adamrec.tumblr.com.
Fantastic. That does it for this episode. And look, you won't tell by the time we edit this, hopefully. I don't know, maybe. But there was a long path to get there. But we're done.
We did it.
We did it. We saved the Jeff Parker verse.
We survived the experience.
That's the last thing we say. No, we still have to plug that next week we are doing an episode all about pop stars and fame and stuff like that. So, I mean, we kind of already had that pitch, but then someone wanted to talk about Poptopia, and I got some weird feelings about Poptopia. So we'll check that out then. Until next time, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Battle the... Oh my gosh, I can not introduce my own podcast.
You got this.